do it, guys. 1, 2, 3. Fender Play Live. I'm your host, Scott Goldbaum. Right now across the country, kids are saying goodbye to summer and heading back to school. So today on Fender Play Live, we thought we'd get a little scholarly ourselves and learn about alternate tunings. But don't worry, unlike school, we're gonna rock out on some country and metal and everything in between and show you how alternate tunings can open up a whole new world of playing. So let's get started. To help me out, please welcome one of my favorite guests we've had on the show before, Sebastian Bentley.
All right.
Guys, Sebastian's here. He's a lead guitarist for an LA-based band, New Language. You've toured with some massive bands. At the end of the show, I like to check in and see what's going on with you. I actually know something that's happening that just that blows my mind, but we'll get to that a little bit later. In the meantime, he's also an amazing instructor of ours, and we're super happy you're back, man. So welcome back. Good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So look, we're gonna get right into it. I know that your band actually functions a lot out of one of the first tunings we'll get to today, which is Drop D. Can we hear a little something?
Sure.
Nice taste, man.
There we go.
Good little preview. So today we're talking all about alternate tunings. The first thing we might want to come across is asking, what do we mean when we say alternate tunings?
Alternate tunings is literally anything but standard tuning.
So we're talking.
Usually we're talking about E, A, D, G, B, E, standard tuning.
Right.
You know, elephants and donkeys grow big ears.
Okay, eat a darn good breakfast every day. Is something
You
that's
know,
in my mind.
Eat at Denny's, girls buy earrings.
Wow. Ernie ate dynamite. Goodbye, Ernie.
Love it. Exactly.
Just keeps going.
Yeah, there's a million of these things.
But we need to throw those things out the window today.
Goodbye. Because we're talking about anything but that. What we're going to be starting with, I mean, there's lots of different kinds of alternate tunings, right? Because it can be anything from just tuning your entire guitar down a half step.
A lot of singer-songwriters do that for vocal accessibility and stuff like that.
Stevie Ray, Jimi Hendrix, classic, you know, half step down guys.
Right.
But we're going to be talking about changing the relationship between the strings along the way as well. We're going to be talking about open or drop D. We're going to be doing open D, open G. You know, we'll probably mention a few others along the way.
And that kind of begs the question, why are we even thinking of using them in the first place?
Sure. There's a lot of things that are beneficial about open and altered tunings. One of the things that we use it for in my band is they make playing low power chords a lot easier.
And speed is kind of a byproduct.
Exactly. Because instead of kind of sliding a power chord voicing around, you can do that with one finger.
That's great, man. I mean, that just kind of pulls out the first tenet, which is you do all these one-fingered chords, especially when you're in drop D, so it can make a lot of chords plenty easier. But we also kind of forces you to be a little bit more creative. You know, in different tunings, you could take like a C shape, maybe bring it up a whole step. I'm in drop D right now. And it just has a whole new voicing behind it. So it gives these familiar chords different voicings. So let's get started with the most easy, accessible tuning. I remember the first time I thought of this, I looked it up online. I was trying to learn Everlong by the Foo Fighters, and it said, tune your E to D. I was like 12 years old, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll just tune like everything else. I'll tune it up to D.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it was like my first experience with a violent string snapping. That goes to say, we're gonna start with the easiest and most accessible tuning among our alternate tunings, which is drop D. Let's just jam a little bit more on what we opened up with. I was doing some one-finger power chords. In fact, I was doing this thing in third position. There was some palm muting. Let's open up to it. See what happens. 1, 2, 3. Taste of something. Now, I remember when I first got into drop D, like I said, it was more melodic rock. It was even metal eventually.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that it's exclusive to those genres. You know, a moment ago I said take that C chord, bring it up a whole step. and it offers some really cool voicing. So if I abandoned the pick for a second and kind of leaned into how good of a tuning this is for fingerstyle stuff, you'll see so much on the Fender Play platform in that indie folk, country setting. One song that we just released that I love to play, I love to play the song out actually, it's by a great band called Iron and Wine. Here's a little taste of their song Naked As We Came that integrates fingerstyle playing into open D, or rather drop D. Here it comes. That just says that there's a lot that you guys can do outside of those simple power chords, and it really promotes that creative outlet when it comes to taking shapes that maybe really you may be accustomed to and just kind of repositioning them on different parts of the neck. But that all goes to say, I know for you, because you're a practitioner of this heavier sound, that the origin of your introduction to drop D was metal.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that I got into when I was young was a few different bands. I mean, even Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine. You mentioned Everlong by Foo Fighters.
Right, Soundgarden.
All of these songs, yeah, Soundgarden. They're using drop D tuning to get some of those single finger power chord voicings, but there's more creative ways that you can use it in that style as well. A lot of riffs, like for example, Killin' in the Name Of is like a very bluesy kind of pentatonic thing.
It's so great. I mean, when you reinterpret that on an acoustic, it almost sounds...
Get it.
Bring that to this context versus that one, right?
It's just a completely different feel.
Right.
It just kind of opens up the guitar a little bit more, and it just makes, I mean, my feeling on heavy music is just the lower your guitar sounds, the meaner it is.
Yeah, there you go.
I know a lot of people feel the same way, so it was just an easy way for when I was learning and playing mostly in standard, I could just quick drop in and drop D and get that low thing happening.
Yeah, it's a really good way of building your ear too.
Totally.
Especially when it comes to just trying to, like, what is the first available reference point for drop D? Well, that's gonna be your open fourth string.
Yep.
D right there versus the
low D down here with the lower octave. Ron, you get in that to the mic. Low D.
It's the first time I've seen Ron smile on live. That's right. Anyway, that goes to say that you've got some great references. You've got Soundgarden, some Lamb of God.
Oh yeah,
is that right?
Dude, we got to rip that one.
Yeah,
out,
break it.
I'm always thinking about Lamb of God. I was playing these songs with my band back in high school. The classic, Laid to Rest. All that sort of stuff.
Kind of just shine a light on something for me. I think that for a lot of people, not only does the tone and the speed generally strike you as intimidating, but again, the accessibility of these one-fingered chords makes it really fun to just jump into that darkness.
Oh yeah.
And also, I think after a while, when the fret hand stuff becomes a little bit easier, you kind of get into math. You start playing with different time signatures to maximize the potential of this tuning. Now, if you want to get really, really deep, if you want to get really heavy, you can take it a step further.
Sure.
You can take that low D string and tune it to low C, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I know, like with New Language with your band, you guys function a lot building your repertoire, writing your songs kind of out of drop D.
Sure.
But then, like any band, you want to situate it to the key that's going to maximize the potential of your singer's voice, that you may drop it even a whole step further.
Absolutely. I mean, what we do is we use the structure of drop D tuning just because that's kind of what we're used to as far as like those low voicings and some of the way that the scales and chords all fit together in that key. But depending on what the vocal melody is, sometimes we're gonna need to, like, the vocal melody will be a higher thing and we'll bring the whole guitar down to drop C or drop B or drop A or just keep going down further and further. So I'm just gonna bring myself down to drop C and show you guys something real quick.
Yeah, and remember, like with vocalists, a high note is only perceived as high relative to the lowest note that you're playing.
Sure.
So what does that sound like when you really bring it all the way down to that note?
When we get down to here.
There it is.
Yeah.
You landed on it.
just sounds really low and mean. It's, you know, almost a baritone guitar type of range.
Right.
But we play stuff, you know, what's cool about the drop C tuning is you get that low sound, and you can do a lot just on that lowest string, you know, while retaining the same, you know, standard tuning on the other 5 strings. Here's a little bit of a song. It's called Come Alive. It's from our first record, and it's in drop C. Let me check that tuning one more time. Because here's the thing, with lighter strings that you're generally using for standard tuning, they don't have quite as much stability in those lower tunings. So that's something to be mindful of as you're experimenting with low tunings, is you might want to raise your string gauge to 11s, 12s, something like that to, you know, just to have that stability, you know, for tuning. And also just because that string starts to feel pretty loose down there. But regardless, it still sounds awesome. So check it out.
Killer. Give it up for Sebastian, guys. Now, you've heard a lot from this range, from country and indie folk to metal, some math rock. Remember, there's no rules with what styles you can play in these alternate tunings. Once you've learned the fundamentals with our lessons on Fender Play, we're just skimming the surface right now. You can go much deeper on lessons that are designed to make you feel like a better candidate to embark in these tunings yourself. But you can apply them to any genre, any style you like. Now, obviously, a big part of alternate tunings is the actual tuning itself, which, like Sebastian was just making it a point to say, can sometimes be tough. And there's some simple tricks you may not be aware of that really help you get in tune faster, more effectively, and efficiently. So for more on this, let's head to the studio, check out what Barrett's up to for this week's Fender Play Insider. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Barrett Wilson, session guitarist and one of your Fender Play instructors. No matter what your level of guitar ability, the first step to sounding better is making sure that your guitar's in tune. This becomes especially important as you start to explore alternate tunings. So today I'm going to show you some important tips to maintaining a well-tuned guitar, no matter what tuning you're in. The first step is to make sure that your strings are properly stretched out. This is vitally important if you've just changed your strings, as new strings will stretch out when tightened on the guitar, which can change the pitch over time. There's a few ways to stretch out your strings, but I'm going to show you how I like to do it. I just changed these strings, and right now they're in tune. But watch what happens when I stretch them out of tune. Now, let's take the G string, for example. When you're stretching the string, you want to hold down the first fret with your fret hand to protect the nut. And then with your strum hand, you're going to take your thumb on the string and then your other fingers on the opposite side of the string. And then you're going to kind of bend them in opposite directions. So you're putting pressure on both sides. And then you want to move down the entire string so that you stretch out all of it as opposed to just one spot. All right, let's hear our G chord. The next step to tuning properly is to start tuning the low E string first. So your guitar strings add a lot of tension to the neck of your guitar, and the low E string creates the most tension. So this is what you'll want to start with. All right, so I'm gonna pull out the Fender Tune app and let's tune up this low E string. Let's see where it's at. So right now it's a bit sharp. Now one thing we want to keep in mind is we always want to tune up to the note. So I'm gonna take it flat, which is below the target, and then I'm gonna tune up to it, tightening it, and this will ensure a more precise tune. There we go. Now when tuning, the way you play the note is also very important. You wanna make sure and keep a steady picking motion and try to pick the string the same each time with consistency. So it's always good to leave about 2 seconds in between each attack. Also, let the string settle a bit and then register the note from there. If you try and register the note on the pick, it might be a bit too sharp. So let it settle and then take a look at your tuner. Now, if you're planning on playing or practicing some finger picking or maybe strumming with your thumb, you're going to want to tune using your fingers rather than a pick. So you always want to make sure that you're tuning based on the way that you're going to be playing. So I'm going to tune up this D string with my thumb. A little sharp, dip right below it, and then tighten it up. All right, so now we're all tuned up. Now, one thing we want to keep in mind is to recheck and retune all the strings once we've finished, just to be thorough. So even if you start from low E, adjusting the string tension can cause other strings to change pitch slightly. So you want to make sure you're double checking everything as needed. It's all good to go. So the last thing to keep in mind here is where you place your tuner matters. If you're using a standalone tuner like the Fender Tune app here, you want to make sure to keep it close to where the sound is coming from so that it can register on the phone. Since I'm playing acoustic guitar, I'm going to keep it as close as possible to the sound hole. Now, if you're using a headstock tuner, you want to be sure and position it on part of the headstock that has a nice flat surface, away from any of the tuning heads or the tuning posts. Now, if you're starting to learn some alternate tunings, which are used in everything from metal to country and folk, all of these same tips apply. However, if you're using a more extreme tuning that requires tuning up or down multiple strings and more than a whole step like C standard, you may need to have your guitar set up specifically for that tuning. Tuning is a vitally important part to playing the guitar, and we all have to do it. Taking the time to tune properly will help you avoid common tuning issues and make you sound instantly better. So check out some more tuning videos on Fender Play, and we'll see you next time.
There you go. Thanks, Barrett. Welcome back, you guys. We got some really good insights from Barrett on that. Yeah. While we were doing that, we also got some really good and quick questions during our break. So I'm going to throw them out to our guest, Sebastian. Sure. First question, what gauge do you prefer for drop D tuning or lower sometimes?
I like, for standard tuning, an 11 to 49 gauge. And basically every time I drop my guitar down a step, I add a gauge. So if I'm drop C, 12s, drop B flat, those would be 13s. Right. You know, further than that, you might have to go with some custom sets.
There you have it.
That's it.
Second question, how can you keep your guitar strings from snapping?
Sure, and that's definitely an issue with as you're changing open tunings and things like that. I've had strings break on me a ton. Honestly, the more often than not, when I break a string, it's because it's too old in the first place. Yeah. So this answer is more of a preventative thing. Right. You want to just change your strings. I recommend usually every 6 to 8 weeks, or sooner than that if you're into it. You know.
Yeah, and everybody's a good candidate. So I know that can be an intimidating thing for a lot of people at first. We're not. I remember again, I learned how to snap a string by trying to go to up D, like break that up, however many steps that was. But that goes to say, the maintenance of just tuning your guitar, rather restringing your guitar every 6 to 8 weeks, that it's kind of the best preventative measure you can take. Yeah. Now, we've switched guitars since we last saw you guys. We discussed drop tunings in the previous section, but let's get to the more adventurous stuff, open tunings. So I'm gonna cover open D, and you're in standard. Let's start by playing something that I write and I give to my students a lot as a bit of an exercise. Sure. It sounds something like this. It's more finger style, some of the stuff you just saw Barrett doing. And then I'll have you kind of just jump in and color it in, man. Yeah. Here it comes. Sample size of something. So with open D, like any open tuning, essentially what we're getting at is having each one of these 6 strings reflect one of the notes that's in a given chord. So if we're in the key, or rather if we're at the chord that is D, the D chord consists of 3 notes. You've got D, A, and F sharp, and that's going to be reflected in any one of these single strings. So when I detune things, in fact, for me, as you can tell, like I'm pretty comfortable in the key of or the string set of open D, and that's because I was starting from standard to drop D to open D. So if you're moving from drop D to open D, this is what that's going to look like. You're still with the drop D here on the 6th string. You're still keeping A and D on your 5th and 4th string. But when it comes to your G string, you're now going to bring that down a half step to F sharp. And then you're going to bring this down a whole step from B to A.
Yep.
And then you have your high E string. We're going to give that the same treatment we gave our 6th string, bringing that to drop D. We're going to drop that to D as well. So I don't even need a fret hand to access something really beautiful. Just like that, you have an open D tuning, which is really, really cool. Now, again, you can do so much with just one string, and that's a really great way of introducing yourself to this tuning and being really creative. I said this earlier, I'll say it again. Music theory has a ton of application with alternate and especially open tunings. So if you're just talking about intervals, how to kind of traverse a major scale, well, what if you applied, whole step, half step, so on and so forth to your 1st string? You start with an open position, you bring that up a whole step, you bring that up another whole step, bring that up a half step, we're just running the scale, bring that up another whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and then a half step, and you're full circle in the higher octave. It's really pretty, and you can start making these real cinematic sounds that build tension when you start adding double stops to the equation, or maybe instead of just one string, now 2 strings. Or you can get really bluesy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the principles that we talked about in drop D still apply here. So you can have really cool new voicings. You're just kind of maximizing the potential, and in a lot of ways it still makes chords easy to play. More than anything, it's very, very full. But like in that little exercise I was showing you, you're seeing some fret hand shapes that I probably wouldn't be as inclined to use in standard. Not to mention how beautiful harmonics sound.
Oh yeah.
So that's a little taste of some of the things that you can offer on an acoustic guitar, fingerstyle laden stuff in open D. So what we're going to make it a point to do now is a bit of a guitar switch. I'm then going to jump into standard tuning, because if I'm playing standard and my friend is in open tuning, doesn't mean we can't play together, or vice versa. If I was jamming in some open tuning and he or she was in standard, it could be really cool. In fact, sometimes it can sound like you're in the Rolling Stones in the sense of you've got Keith Richards in open tuning. You're going to actually take the lead on that one and introduce us to open G right now.
All right. So another thing we teach in Fender Play that's used a lot by the Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones is open G. Now this tuning, it's going to be based out of, the way that I think about open tunings is I think about the parent chord shape that creates that tuning. So open D, earlier we were talking about, essentially you'd be getting the result. The result is you get a E chord shape, just tuned lower. The open G tuning, what you're dealing with is an A chord shape. So for that, you have your root on the A string, that's your G. And then you have the 5th D on the D string, and then and then we have the root again on the 3rd string, a 3rd on the B string there, and then we've tuned our high E string down a step to get a D over there as well. So if you're comfortable with feeling like your root of the chord is on the A string, you can get your G chord in open position, which is great. You could maybe get a few extensions of that chord, like a G sus, maybe a little G7. And these simple two-finger voicings is something that Keith used all the time. You might recognize this one if I play a little bit for you, a little Brown Sugar.
Let's hear it. You nailed that, man. Like I was saying at the top, just because he's an open tuning and I'm working out a standard doesn't mean we can't integrate into a jam somehow. So
Totally.
we just like pulled out some blues and G.
Yeah, we can just. There it is.
Now there you have it.
All right.
Now it's really expansive, and all these tunings are available to learn on Fender Play. Now, I also want to mention the integration of slide into open tunings. That some of my favorite guitarists are just slide connoisseurs, and the vast majority of them, I imagine, are also just aficionados in multitudes of open tunings.
Yeah.
So here, enlighten us a little bit about why people are inclined as players to use slide in open tunings perhaps rather than standard.
Absolutely. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started playing slide, I played in standard, and I just took all my favorite blues licks and just tried to work them out.
It's not a bad starting point, man.
Now,
single notes at a time, single strings at a time.
Exactly, just getting your intonation, getting the touch and feel that you need to get the slide working. Now, the thing is, the language of slide guitar, I feel like, is a lot more important sometimes than the technique itself. There are a lot of classic licks that once you learn a few things, you can kind of put them together and they all really work out nicely. Just like you mentioned before, like with open D tuning, if you play your open strings, you just get that chord. So for an application of, say, of blues where you're dealing with a 1 chord, a 4 chord, and a 5 chord, it's really easy to make that happen in with slide guitar if you're doing an open tuning. For example, we're in the key of G, our 1 chord is just the open strings. When we go up to the 4 chord, we go up to C. And then when we have a 5 chord, D, we just slide up to the 7th fret. So as you get through these things, you'll find different ways to combine like those positions. I like to do some stuff behind the slide sometimes. And you can incorporate your other fingers and things like that. But a lot of the classic licks that you'll learn in slide guitar are just kind of going back and forth depending, as long as you have that open tuning, it'll kind of work out.
Oh man, we gotta have you come back to a lesson just dedicated on slide. Brilliant, man. Well, that all goes to say all of these tunings, like I said, are available on Fender Play, and we actually do some deeper dives into lessons on additional tunings like open E. I mean, that was also frequented and really comfortable for Keith Richards. My understanding is it was in the guitar used on Blood on the Tracks by Dylan. Every track featured open E tuning, which kind of blew my mind. But that goes to say I think we're ready to pivot into some homework assignments. We've got some calls to action here, beginning with our beginner players. We want to encourage you guys to experience what it's like to have that open sound by playing a D chord in drop D. So kind of twofold there. The benefit is you can start doing some ear training and learning what it's like to go from your 4th string D as a reference point to bringing your 6th string into that same pitch in a lower octave. Once you have that, I encourage you to try strumming not from your 4th string down over a D shape. Sounds nice and fine, but something more filled out from your 6th string down. That's for our beginners this week.
Awesome. So for our intermediate players, we'd like you to try to tune your guitar to open G and play a chord. Now that can be as easy as just going ahead, tuning your guitar properly and playing through all 6 strings. There's a G chord, and as I mentioned, we got a C chord on the 5th fret and a D chord on the 7th fret. But feel free to kind of leave some strings open and just see what happens. You know, you might get something like, yeah, exactly. With some of those open strings interacting with those simple chord voicings, you'll come up with some stuff that you would never imagine.
I can't say that enough, man. Like, it induces so much creativity. You're kind of focusing on feel more than you are form when you venture outside of standard tuning. You may be very at home with the instrument, but all of a sudden you're kind of, it's uncharted territory. Sure. And sometimes you just take chances.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the claw shape, the A minor 7 just dragged up and down the fretboard.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised at how cool it can sound. And when in doubt, it's jazz. And finally, if you want to blow our minds, play your favorite Rolling Stones song in open G. We've got a lot to offer on there. You were jamming Brown Sugar a little bit earlier. Let's hear that again. Thanks so much for coming through. Give it up one more time for Sebastian Bedley.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you coming by, man. What's forthcoming? I know the answer to this. I want them to know the answer to this.
Absolutely. We're really excited for this opportunity. My band New Language is going to be opening the Sunday afternoon slot on the main stage at Aftershock Music Festival. Headlined by Tool.
That's what I'm talking
Korn's
about,
going to be there. Woo! Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie. It's going to be awesome. So we're really excited to come out there early and bring the heat. So if
That's
you
based
guys,
out of Sacramento, right? So
yes,
all of our NorCal community members. Make
Everybody
it a
up
point to
there.
swing through. If it's close by to y'all, that'd be great to have that in the flesh support.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, seriously, you're one of our favorite instructors. We're so glad to have you on. Like I said, I wasn't speaking sarcastically. I think we'll have you back for some slide techniques.
Sounds good.
A lot left to learn, a lot left to take back from. So anyway, give it up one more time for Sebastian Bentley, his band New
right.
Language. Check him out.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we're gonna get to some community highlights. This is my favorite part of the show, guys, because it's all about you guys, our Facebook community. We're also gonna be addressing some questions from the past week, but first, I'm gonna bring in our mainstay community ambassador. That's Dylan from the community to help us out. Welcome, Dylan.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
First up, we're gonna jump right into the getaway, man. And by getaway, that's what I mean, getaway. The giveaway. Now it's that time we're gonna address the giveaway. And this Fender Play giveaway, let me tell you about it, guys. Each week we give away a free piece of gear to a Fender Play user just for watching a video in the app. You can win a Player Series guitar.
It's too easy.
It's almost too easy.
Yeah.
Not easy for us. In fact, we're not even eligible.
I am very upset about that.
But we got Strats, Tellys, Jaguars, Jazz Masters, or a Player Series bass, a Mustang amp like we've been playing here all day, even our ukuleles. So check it out, watch one video, know that you are a candidate. But without further ado, you get to be the bearer of great news. Dylan, who is this week's winner of our giveaway?
Drum roll, please.
Here
Drum
it
roll. This week, Fernando S.
Fernando S.
Fernando.
Congrats,
Congratulations, Fernando.
There you go. Well, just check the link in the comments for more details on how you can win a free guitar, bass, ... et cetera, et cetera. It's really exciting, guys. We got some community shout outs. You've been kind of overseeing a lot of activity that's been going on in the community. What are some things that are worth mentioning?
Things are good. Things are good in the community. It's been awesome. Great week here, and I want to thank two people really quickly. First off, an old-time friend of ours, that's Keith Means.
Yeah,
been
Keith
around for
Means.
2 years. I think he's been around since the beginning.
Yeah, I think
Keith,
so too.
thank you so much. We love you.
We love you, Keith.
Another guy we gotta appreciate. That's just an old-time friend. We got a new-time friend. This is Victor Z. And Victor Z uploaded his first video of him playing a song that he's learned through Fender Play. So we're so proud of you, Victor. Thank you so much for posting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Keith, you've been a great mentor to a lot of our new players, new people coming through. And Victor, you never know who you're going to be a role model to. So thank you for just breaking the ice and getting to it and giving us some cool content.
Yeah, totally.
On the community. So any questions that you've seen over the course of the last week from the community that might be worth addressing while we're here and we're live?
Yeah, just a real quick touch on a common question. That's soreness. Soreness in the left or right arm, depending upon if you're lefty or righty and playing. And my take on that, obviously I'm not a medical doctor, but I would say listen to your body, kind of love yourself as you're learning how to play. If something doesn't feel good, you know, step back a little bit. If it's a sharp soreness, obviously that's something you want to kind of push way back on.
Yeah, it's a red light right away.
Yeah, it's a red light. If you're in the yellow zone and you're just kind of feeling a little tight, I would say just kind of play it by ear and really let yourself come at this with an angle where you love your body and you love what you're doing and you enjoy the process.
No, you nailed it. And there are some green lights. There's some rites of passage. You know, you want to be able to play maybe at least 10 minutes at a time before your fingers are just giving out and saying, oh, my calluses aren't strong enough.
Yeah.
It's a rite of passage to build that strength in your calluses, the tips of your fingers, but don't beat yourself up over it.
Please don't do that.
And every week we add new songs and lessons to the site. So Dylan, what do we got this week?
Yeah, there's tons of new songs. It's getting to where I can't even keep track. It's amazing. But
Give us some highlights.
one of the great new ones that's coming out, it's got sus chords in it. That's Get Down Tonight by Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
also got Big Yellow Taxi coming out by Joni Mitchell. I'm particularly proud and happy about this one. Yeah. This is a great spot for you open chord folks to really kind of get a chance to step in on some heady music, which is all of Joni Mitchell's stuff.
Yeah, a lot of quick changes. We were talking about alternate tunings all day today.
Yeah.
We've been able to kind of turn this into a standard tuning version, and the song's been covered a million times over for a million great reasons. But yeah, she's an amazing practitioner of open tunings, of weird tunings.
Absolutely.
But for this one in particular, we've got it set up in standard tuning, so check that one out for sure.
A very accessible lesson. And last but not least, of course, is Stay by Rihanna. And we're super excited about this too. This has got some vibe to it. So when you check this out, you're going to get a chance to do a couple new techniques, whether that be bass note strum, or you are going to have C chords, A minor chords, stuff that's in your wheelhouse, but it's going to push you a little bit, and it's going to be an awesome lesson to put into your repertoire.
Yeah, this is something that you can learn from a beginning standpoint, from more of an advanced for like real arpeggiation and diving into the details. Shout out to my buddy Mickey Echo who wrote and is featured on that song. I've taught this a million times over on piano, on guitar. It's a great tune too. So thanks for being the bear as always.
Hey,
good
thank you guys.
information,
Thank you
great
so much.
news, man.
It's an honor.
Big thanks to you. Big thanks to Sebastian for rolling through. Another great week with you guys. Make sure to check out new languages, new music, and come back and spend more time with us next week. We'll see you guys then. In the meantime, we'll wrap up with a G chord.
Let's do it.
Here we go.